My little sister was always bragging about how good the food at her school was. After I accidentally ate the breakfast burrito she brought home, I started making her bring me food from there too. That is, until her homeroom teacher caught me red-handed at the school's iron fence. The woman snapped, "So you're the one who's been bullying a student from my class, forcing her to buy you food." I stared at the beautiful teacher in front of me, lost in thought. She wore an elegant long dress and had a gentle air about her, but her expression was stern. "So, you want to go out?" Her eyes widened in shock. "What did you say?" I was squatting by the fence, still munching on a breakfast burrito. We just stared at each other through the bars. It felt like a scene out of a prison movie. I was about to repeat myself, but the next second, a piece of lettuce shot out of my mouth and stuck to the fence. I watched as the woman's brow furrowed in disgust. Then she pulled out a tissue, delicately plucked the piece of green off the fence, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. I was mortified. There are many ways to die, but dying of embarrassment should not be one of them. I hadn't even gotten her number yet, and I'd already made a complete fool of myself. I was about to make a run for it when a sharp voice stopped me. "Stay right there." Maybe it was my instinctive fear of teachers kicking in, or maybe it was just that her voice was so crisp and pleasant. Whatever the reason, I froze and stood at attention, still clutching the half-eaten breakfast burrito. About a minute later, the woman from behind the fence had walked around and was standing right in front of me. Up close, she was even more beautiful. She didn't have that generic, cookie-cutter influencer face you see all over the internet. Hers was a classic, elegant beauty with real character. Her features were refined, her skin was pale, and a few stray strands of hair were tucked behind her ears, revealing delicate earlobes. A pair of silver-framed glasses sat on the bridge of her nose. Behind the lenses, she had lovely almond-shaped eyes that drooped slightly at the corners, and when she looked up, her long lashes brushed against the glass. I swallowed a bite of my burrito, completely mesmerized. But for someone so beautiful, she was dressed in a very conservative suit. The combination of her beauty and her prim and proper attire was a strange, captivating contrast. "What class are you in? Do you even go to this school? Why aren't you in uniform?" The three rapid-fire questions made my head spin. What was she getting at? She couldn't possibly think I was a student, could she? I mean, I'm 24 years old. I don't look anything like a high schooler. The woman in front of me gave me a thorough once-over, from head to toe. Finally, she seemed to conclude. "You're not a student, are you?" I suddenly broke into a fit of coughing. I quietly pulled out my phone and switched it to the front-facing camera. A shaggy, textured haircut, a baggy t-shirt, and ripped jeans. To top it off, I was wearing a pair of absolutely hideous chicken feet socks, paired with some absurdly childish Crocs. No matter how you sliced it, I looked like some kind of wannabe who'd dropped out of school. I guess I could see why she'd made that assumption. And to think I'd flattered myself by thinking it was because I had a baby face. "So, she was basically calling me a bum, right?" she said. "What was it you said earlier?" Her nice voice snapped me back to reality. I cleared my throat and said it again. "Want to go out?" The woman considered this for a moment, as if pondering some matter of great importance. My eyes, however, were drawn to a tiny mole just beside her collarbone. It moved slightly against her skin when she spoke. It was incredibly alluring. After a few minutes, she looked at me seriously and said, "All right, let's talk. My name is Chloe Sullivan. You can call me Miss Sullivan." I raised an eyebrow, a bit surprised. She seemed so straight-laced. I didn't expect her to have this kind of interest. After Chloe spent the next half hour lecturing me on civic duties and responsibilities, I slowly realized that her idea of talking and mine were two completely different things. She went on, from civility and harmony to integrity and kindness. She even brought it up to the level of societal progress and national development. My legs were starting to ache from standing there, so I finally had to interrupt her. "Miss Sullivan, what exactly is your point?" The hint of a smile on Chloe's face vanished. She looked at me sternly. "You've been bullying my student, Julia Wood, haven't you?" "Julia?" I pictured that little brat's face in my mind. Then I said casually, "Yeah, I have. What about it? I don't just bully her. I've been roughing her up since we were kids." It's no exaggeration to say that Julia's probably taken more hits from me than I've had meals in my life. Chloe's expression soured even more. "Listen, I don't care what school you're from, but I will not stand by and let you bully one of my students." I was speechless. "Is it a crime to mess with your own sister now?" Chloe continued, "Don't force Julia to buy you food anymore. If you're having financial trouble, I can help you." An idea popped into my head, and I suddenly grinned. "Sure, Miss Sullivan. In that case, can I get your number? So I can hit you up for help if I ever can't afford a meal." Chloe hesitated for a second, then nodded. As I was leaving, I added one last thing in my defense. By the way, Miss Sullivan, I'm definitely not a student. I'm a legal adult. The whole situation was pretty absurd, now that I thought about it. Ever since Julia transferred to this high school for her sophomore year, she'd been bragging to me every single day about how amazing the cafeteria food was. One time, I happened to take a bite of a breakfast burrito she brought home. My mind was blown. Damn, that breakfast burrito was ridiculously good. From that day on, I used every trick in the book to get Julia to bring me food from her school. My methods ranged from bribery to brute force. It only took me 3 days to break her. In the mornings, I'd wait by the fence for Julia to finish her morning study hall and bring me my burrito. At noon, I'd wait for her to bring me a packed lunch after she was done eating. I skipped dinner. I'm trying to lose weight. This arrangement had been going on for less than a month before her homeroom teacher caught on, and she actually thought I was bullying Julia. I couldn't help but laugh. When Julia came home for the weekend, I made a point of telling her, starting this week, you don't have to bring me food anymore. Julia was overjoyed, shouting, the heavens are just. Finally, someone has come to tame this bottomless pit. Do you have any idea how my classmates look at me when I buy 2 lunches every day? They all think I have a monstrous appetite. Justice is served. Hallelujah. I couldn't take it anymore and smacked her on the back of the head. Get back to your homework. If you don't place in the top 10 on your next monthly exam, I'll have your hide. That evening, I casually scrolled through Chloe's Facebook profile. The summary, completely uninteresting. Other than reposting school announcements, she posted almost nothing about her personal life. I figured it must be her professional account, so I opened up our iMessage chat. Good evening, Miss Sullivan. I was wondering if I could get your personal number. She replied almost immediately. Sorry, I'd rather not. You can just contact me on this number if you need anything. I pursed my lips. Playing hard to get, huh? I typed, but you're really beautiful, and I wanted to see your Facebook posts. Chloe just left me on read. I tried again. Miss Sullivan, do you have a boyfriend? Chloe, that's none of your business. Me, but you're seriously gorgeous. Again, left on read. I let out a frustrated laugh and decided to play my trump card. That little pain, Julia. If you're going to ignore me, Miss Sullivan, I guess I'll just have to make Julia start bringing me food again tomorrow. As expected, that got a response. Chloe replied, you're a grown man. Why are you picking on a high school student? Instead of wasting your days doing nothing, you should find a job and support yourself. Don't you agree? I was floored. Chloe definitely had a bit of a savior complex. She was actually trying to inspire a deadbeat like me to get a job and be a productive member of society. I decided to play along. You're right. Chloe probably thought I was a promising student. She sent a wall of text. Yes, I can tell you're a good kid at heart. There's no shame in not having a degree. Supporting yourself with a job you found on your own is just as admirable. Remember, comparison is the thief of joy. You have to learn to be at peace with yourself. What was all this nonsense? It was all so formal and preachy. It made my head spin just reading it. But my eyes locked onto 2 specific words. Good kid. I couldn't stop a smirk from forming on my face. I pictured her, dressed in one of her prim blouses, calling me a good kid. I slowly typed out a reply. Good kid? Are you hitting on me? Chloe. After that night, Chloe completely stopped responding to me. It didn't matter if I sent good morning or good night texts. Even when I threatened to use Julia again, Chloe never replied. I was bored out of my mind at home when I got a call from Julia from a payphone at school. Ethan, you won't believe this. My homeroom teacher actually thinks I'm being bullied. She was trying so hard to get me to open up about it, but I didn't even know I was supposedly being bullied. It all clicked. So my dear Miss Sullivan had decided I was a lost cause and had shifted her focus to Julia instead. I chuckled to myself. Julia thought I was nuts and called me a weirdo. Then she finally got to the point. Oh, right. There's a parent-teacher conference on Friday afternoon. See if mom or dad can make it. I totally aced my monthly exams, by the way, so don't forget that game skin you promised me. I gave her some non-committal answer and hung up. Then I immediately headed to the barber shop to get my shaggy haircut completely restyled. 6 hours later, I shot a wink at the handsome, sophisticated man staring back at me in the mirror. I muttered to myself, damn, all it takes is a little effort to look this good. By the time I got home, it was already 10. As was my habit, I sent Chloe a good night message. To my surprise, she actually responded. I don't know your name, but I get the feeling you're younger than me. As a teacher, I'm advising you to stop bothering my student. It's not going to end well for anyone. Your constant, pointless messages these past few days have become a serious nuisance. I've said everything I can say on the matter. I don't think there's anything more I can do for you. I hope you'll actually listen to what I've told you. So that's that. I'm deleting your number. If I ever see you at school bothering Julia again, I promise you, I will not let it slide. Huh. I had no idea what that little brat Julia had been telling Chloe. But one thing was crystal clear. Chloe still had no idea I was Julia's actual brother. When my next message failed to deliver, I raised an eyebrow. She actually blocked me. My mom suddenly knocked on my door and came in. "Ethan," she said, "I have a big meeting tomorrow, so I can't make it to the parent-teacher conference." I nodded in understanding. And so, being the shut-in that I am, I bravely volunteered. "Mom, I'll go." The conference was scheduled for 3 in the afternoon. I started getting ready at 10 in the morning. I swear, in all my 24 years, I had never put this much effort into my appearance. I was so flawless that Chloe could have inspected my face with a magnifying glass and wouldn't have found a single imperfection. My mom walked past my room, did a double take, and asked, "Ethan, are you going to a parent-teacher conference or on a date?" I was busy styling my hair. Without looking back, I replied, "Who knows? Maybe I'll come back with a daughter-in-law for you." My mom laughed and told me I was being ridiculous. At 2:30, I walked into the school along with a crowd of other parents. The sophomore classrooms were on the 3rd floor, and Julia was leaning over the railing in the hallway, scanning the crowd. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. She excitedly rushed downstairs to meet me. She latched onto my arm like a sycophant, bragging animatedly to her friends. "See him? That's my brother, my actual brother. Pretty handsome, right?" I put on a gentle, refined smile. At the same time, I whispered to her, "All right, that's enough. Lay it on any thicker, and I'm walking away." She was so embarrassing. Julia paid me no mind. "By the way, Ethan, I did amazing this time. Besides a little slip-up in English Lit, everything else was practically perfect." She led me to her desk. It was in the center of the 3rd row, a prime location. From here, I had a perfect, unobstructed view of the teacher at the front of the room. I nodded absently, my eyes constantly glancing toward the classroom door. Where was Chloe? Julia was still rambling. "Ethan, you look so handsome today. You're totally stealing the show. Be honest, you dressed up like this just to make me look good, didn't you? I'm so touched. You're the best." My head was starting to throb. How could one person be so loud? If we weren't in a room full of people, I would have seriously considered stuffing her own socks in her mouth. Since I had nothing better to do, I glanced down at the grade slip on her desk. History, excellent. Math, excellent. Science, excellent. She really had done well. Then I glanced at English Lit. A failing grade. I knew Julia struggled with English, but I'd never seen her do this poorly. She didn't even manage to pass? Julia laughed sheepishly, looking guilty. It was just an off day. There weren't too many other parents in the room yet, so no one was paying attention to us. I sneered and gave her a few hard thumps on the arm. An off day? That meant she hadn't been following the study schedule I made for her at all. She was really asking for it. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a familiar figure enter the room. I looked up, and my eyes met Chloe's. For a split second, I saw a wave of pure shock ripple through her usually calm eyes. Chloe recognized me, and my fist was still poised over my sister's arm. I suddenly remembered the text Chloe had sent me. "If I ever see you at school bothering Julia again, I promise you, I will not let it slide." Well, I wasn't just bothering her now. I was hitting her right in front of her teacher. So what now? How exactly was Ms. Sullivan not going to let it slide? Our eyes met for only a few seconds before she looked away. "No problem. If the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad must go to the mountain." I smoothed down my shirt, put on my best smile, and walked up to the front of the classroom. "Ms. Sullivan, I'm Julia's brother, Ethan Wood." The muscles in Chloe's face tensed for a fraction of a second before she composed herself. She said professionally, "Hello, Mr. Wood." Julia did very well on her exams this time, though her English Lit grade did pull down her average. If she can bring that up, she'll have a good shot at a great college. I kept my eyes fixed on Chloe the entire time, a playful smile on my face. I watched her meet my gaze, then quickly look away. I drew out my words slowly. "Is that so? Well, in that case, we should exchange numbers. My parents are always busy with work, so I'm the one who oversees Julia's studies. It would be good if we could communicate about her progress." I slowly pulled out my phone and opened my contact card. It was for the very number she had so dramatically blocked last night. After all her tough talk yesterday, today she was going to have to add it right back. I held the phone out to her, my eyes glinting with malicious glee. It was as if I knew all along that this moment would come, forcing her to eat her words. "Is that all right, Miss Sullivan?" "Of course, Mr. Wood." Once most of the parents had arrived, Chloe began the conference. My gaze was fixed on the woman at the front of the room for the entire meeting. I couldn't bear to look away for even a second. At first, Chloe's eyes met mine a few times, but as it went on, I noticed she was deliberately avoiding looking towards my seat in the center of the 3rd row. I let out a soft Julia couldn't resist leaning over to whisper, "Ethan, what is wrong with you? Why are you staring at my teacher like that?" I mean, yeah, she's beautiful, but you're being so obvious. What? What am I doing? I was just looking at her. It's not like the other parents weren't looking too. Julia rolled her eyes, her tone dripping with exasperation. You're looking at her like a wolf staring at a lamb, like you want to eat her alive. I forced a smile and whispered back, say one more word, and your allowance is cut off. Julia gave a sheepish grin. Stare away then. Be my guest. After the conference ended, a crowd of parents gathered around Chloe to talk. She stood in the middle of them, handling their questions with a confident and easy grace. There was something incredibly attractive about the calm, self-assured poise that only comes with experience and maturity. I stood a short distance away, unable to resist watching her for a little longer. Suddenly, Chloe looked up, and her gaze cut through the crowd and landed directly on me. I was momentarily surprised, then I smiled back at her. Julia tugged on my sleeve, her backpack slung over her shoulder. Let's go home, Ethan. I nodded and broke eye contact first. On the way home, I asked Julia, how old is your homeroom teacher? She looks pretty young. Usually, more senior teachers have more experience, which makes them more popular with parents. By bringing up Chloe's age, I was subtly questioning her competence. Julia, who apparently adored Chloe, jumped to her defense. Don't judge her by her looks. Miss Sullivan has a master's degree from a top university. She's 28. She has plenty of experience. I just said, oh, non-committally. I continued to pump the naive girl for information. A top university? Which one? Julia, Yale. I racked my brain and suddenly remembered that my old college roommate's girlfriend went to Yale. I pulled out my phone to text him. I casually added, Chloe isn't seeing anyone, is she? Julia, busy logging into a game on her phone, answered before she could think. Nope, never had a boyfriend. 3 seconds later, her brain caught up. Wait a minute. How do you know her name? I'm sure I never told you her name. And why are you asking if she has a boyfriend? Oh my God, you don't have a thing for her, do you? I was getting annoyed. Why are you so nosy? You got a death wish or something? That night, my roommate sent me Chloe's personal number. As I was about to send a friend request, I hesitated. If I just said who I was, Chloe probably wouldn't accept it. After thinking for a moment, I typed out a message. Hi, I got your contact from a friend. I heard you went to Yale for your master's, and I was hoping I could ask you a few questions about the application process. Thanks. As I hit send, I couldn't help but think I was a genius. 10 minutes later, she accepted the request. The first thing I did was go to her Facebook page. Unfortunately, there were still no pictures of Chloe herself, but there were a lot more personal posts and snippets of her daily life, which made her seem more like a real person. At least she didn't seem so stuffy and by the book. I messaged her. Good evening, Miss Sullivan. It's Ethan Wood, Julia's brother. Chloe, what? I knew exactly what she was thinking. She was probably wondering how on earth I got her personal number. After a moment, she seemed to compose herself. Is there something I can help you with? We can talk on my school number. Me? There is something, actually, but it's not really appropriate to discuss it on your work line. That seemed to pique her interest. What is it? I grinned as I typed. I wanted to talk about asking you out. The typing indicator appeared and disappeared for a full 3 minutes. Then, her message finally came through. I'm sorry, Mr. Wood, but I need to be very clear. I have no intention of dating anyone right now, so you'd be wasting your time. Besides, I'm not really interested in younger men. I'm sure you're a great guy, and you should try meeting people your own age. If there's nothing else, please delete my number. Another wall of text, and those 3 old-fashioned emojis at the end made me cringe. Okay, fine. It was the response I'd expected. I completely ignored what she'd said and changed the subject. Miss Sullivan, could you bring me some food from the school tomorrow? The breakfast and lunch there are seriously amazing. Chloe was clearly caught off guard by the sudden change of topic. Huh. I suppressed a laugh and played the Julia card again. If you won't do it, I guess I'll just have to ask Julia. Chloe, she's about to be a senior. Her workload is insane, and you still want to distract her. Of course, I was just kidding, but I kept up the act with Chloe. Yep, the food at your school is just that good. So, either you bring it to me, or Julia does. Chloe was silent for a full 10 minutes. It was as if she was wrestling with a monumental decision. I wasn't in a rush. I leisurely washed my face. When I came back to my phone, I saw she had replied. Fine. What do you want? I suddenly found Chloe incredibly amusing. She was the classic example of someone whose actions completely contradicted her words. So I sent her a full week's meal plan with a note. 8 a.m. for breakfast, 12 p.m. for lunch. Don't be late, Miss Sullivan. After a moment's thought, I added, I'll pay you back at the end of the month. You can front the cash for now, right? Chloe was shocked. You want me to do this for a whole month? Yeah. Is that a problem? Chloe, fine. I put my phone down and went back to scrolling through her Facebook page. I'd give it a month and see what happened. What if it actually worked? Chloe was very punctual. Every day, she was waiting for me at the fence at 8 in the morning and 12 noon, right on the dot. I was starting to regret my big mouth and this whole stupid breakfast plan. It meant I had to drag myself out of bed at 6 every morning to shave just to go pick up food. After 2 weeks of this, Chloe must have noticed how exhausted I looked. She couldn't help but comment, "You know, you don't have to get so cleaned up every day. You could probably get some more sleep." I took a sip of my coffee and ignored her. Women always say things like that. But at the end of the day, everyone prefers someone who looks clean, sharp, and handsome. I was dead tired and didn't want to waste any more time. I grabbed my breakfast and turned to leave. Suddenly, Chloe called out to me, "Ethan." I turned around, a straw still dangling from my lips, and raised an eyebrow. "Yeah." Chloe seemed to hesitate, as if she hadn't quite figured out what she wanted to say. After a long pause, she finally stammered, "The cafeteria has a new shrimp dish. I tried it, and it's pretty good. Do you want to try it tomorrow?" I was annoyed. Couldn't she have just texted me that? Seriously, she was cutting into my nap time. Still grumpy from waking up, I snapped, "No." "Chloe, oh okay." As I walked away, I thought I heard her mutter behind me, "Why did he get so mad all of a sudden?" I couldn't quite make it out, and I couldn't be bothered to go back and ask. Anyone who gets between me and my sleep is my mortal enemy. When I woke up around 10, I saw I had a text from Chloe. "I have a meeting around noon today." Me, and, "Are you asking for my permission? If so, you have it. Go." "Chloe, my point is, I might not be able to bring you lunch, so I don't want you to come all this way for nothing." Reading her text, I could just picture her exasperated, helpless expression. I decided to tease her. "Are you reporting your schedule to me? How sweet of you, Miss Sullivan." Only after I sent it did I realize that Chloe's old-fashioned vibe was rubbing off on me. I couldn't believe I was using such cheesy emojis. After a long pause, Chloe finally replied, "I'm never telling you my plans again." I burst out laughing. She was too much fun. Who on earth created a creature like Chloe? But honestly, I was reaching my limit. Who in their right mind gets up at 6 every single day? Especially a night owl like me with a completely messed up sleep schedule. So that night, I texted Chloe, "Skipping breakfast tomorrow, so don't bring anything." She replied instantly, "Skipping breakfast is bad for you. You should eat something." The thought of dragging myself out of bed before dawn to shave just for a stupid breakfast made me feel pathetic. I was basically a zombie walking to the fence every morning, running on nothing but fumes. Sometimes I'd think to myself, it's not like I absolutely have to eat this food, and it's not like I absolutely have to pursue this woman. But I didn't want to look like a quitter, so I stubbornly texted back, "I'm sick of it." 2 minutes later, she replied, "Is it because you can't wake up?" Me, "No, I just don't feel like eating." Chloe ignored me and continued, "Well, you still can't skip breakfast. There's a great bagel place near my apartment. How about I drop some off at your building tomorrow morning?" That immediately got my attention. She was a clever one, trying to get a look at me without all my prep work. I was about to politely decline when she sent another text. "I'll just leave it at the entrance. We don't have to see each other." I narrowed my eyes. That could work. I agreed. Breakfast delivered right to my door without me having to lift a finger? Why would I say no? "Chloe, still extra hot sauce and a side of cream cheese, right?" Wow. As expected from someone so meticulous, she remembered perfectly. I decided to tease her. "You remember so clearly, babe Chloe. Question mark. Why are you calling me that? Do you call everyone that?" Never mind. Call me whatever you want. Just make sure you eat breakfast." So, the next day, I went downstairs to find my breakfast in the ugliest, most abstract-looking monster-themed lunchbox I had ever seen. I was shocked by how hideous it was. Was this really Chloe's sense of style? I couldn't resist taking a picture and sending it to her. "Is this it?" She replied half an hour later. She must have been busy. "Yep, that's the one." "You don't like it?" I was stunned. Am I supposed to like it? Chloe went silent. "I thought you liked that kind of style." What? What could have possibly given her that impression? Me? A guy who tries to make sure every single hair on his head is perfectly in place. How could she think I would like something so ugly and bizarre? Then it hit me. I remembered what I was wearing the first time I met her. Damn it. It had to be the chicken feet socks. They must have given her a completely wrong impression of me. I was at a loss for words. Chloe actually remembered them. I guess first impressions really do matter. I composed myself and typed back a lie. "It's so ugly it's cute. I love it. You should never set a precedent." Ever since Chloe brought me that one meal, my lazy side took over completely. Chloe didn't really say anything about it. She just started delivering all my meals to my building. The upside was that I no longer had to wake up early to get ready, so I could finally get enough sleep. The downside was that I didn't get to see Chloe anymore. I counted the days. We hadn't seen each other in almost 2 weeks. Then one evening, Chloe messaged me out of the blue. By the way, midterms are coming up, and there will be a parent-teacher conference afterward. So what? Why was she telling me? I didn't get it. So, Chloe, Julia's motivation has been a little low lately. She seems a bit unfocused and restless. I was even more confused. So, Chloe, it's pretty normal for sophomores to go through this. Good communication between her family and the school can really help her get back on track. I wondered if all by-the-book types were this bad at getting to the point. So what is your point? Chloe stopped replying. For some reason, that started to annoy me. What was her deal? I was just about to spam her with Beagle memes when a new message popped up. I was just wondering if you were planning on coming to the parent-teacher conference. Oh, she should have just said that from the start. So she wanted to see me. I texted back, do you want me to go? No response from Chloe. I decided to be more direct. Do you want to see me? After a long pause, a single word appeared. Yes. I suppressed a smile and continued to fish. Do you want me to come to the conference? Or do you just want to see me? Chloe, is there a difference? Me? Nope. Chloe, then both. I was just messing with her. I pretended to be reluctant. Fine, I'll be there. Chloe was the one to change the subject. It's getting late. You should get some sleep. I replied, so cold, Miss Sullivan. Not even a good night? Chloe replied, seemingly exasperated, good night. I deliberately pushed her buttons. Ah, such a cold good night. I might freeze to death. Chloe thought about it for a minute. Good night. When Julia came home for the weekend, she was bursting with gossip. Ethan, guess what? I think our homeroom teacher is dating someone. My fingers froze over my keyboard, and I slowly turned to look at her. Julia was still buzzing with excitement, dramatically reenacting the scene for me. The other day at dinner, I saw this guy come to meet Miss Sullivan. They were laughing and talking, and they looked so happy together. Plus, she's been smiling at her phone a lot lately. She's totally dating someone. I watched her little performance with a blank expression, then asked casually, what kind of guy? Julia thought for a moment. Tall, handsome, and mature. The steady, charming type. And the most important thing is, they looked so good together, like they were made for each other. I said, oh. Julia was still excitedly dishing out the gossip, completely oblivious to my darkening expression. I grabbed her with one hand, pushed her down onto the sofa, and gave her a noogie. As I did, I lectured her. No wonder you've been so unfocused lately. You've been spending all your time on gossip. Julia, have I been too easy on you recently? Have you forgotten what's important? Midterms are right around the corner. Do you even want to get into the honors track for senior year? Can't you get your priorities straight? Have you improved your English grade? Are you going to get into the college you want? Julia whined and begged for mercy. Ethan, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I watched with a grim expression as Julia retreated to her room, then let out a heavy sigh. Whatever. She'd had a long week of school. I shouldn't be so hard on her. I knocked on Julia's door. Come on, let's go get something good to eat. You need energy to study. A second later, the door flew open, and Julia appeared with a huge grin on her face. Okay, I sighed. It's a small world sometimes. We got to the mall, and as soon as I parked the car, Julia started excitedly slapping my shoulder. Oh my God. Ethan, look. What did I tell you? Miss Sullivan is definitely dating someone. I followed her pointed finger. A tall, handsome man was walking beside Chloe. He was holding a bouquet of flowers. Chloe had her head lowered, saying something to him. It looked like they were whispering intimately, like lovers do. I looked away, my appetite suddenly gone. Julia tugged on my sleeve. Come on, Ethan, let's go eat. I pulled out my phone and sent her $100. Go grab a bite with your friends. If that's not enough, just let me know. With that, I turned and walked back to the car. Ignoring Julia's squeal of delight, I added, be home by 9:30. And no drinking. Yes, sir. When I got home, I finished the chapter of the novel I was working on. My mind went blank for a second, and then I pulled out my phone again. I realized Chloe had been bringing me food for almost a month now. After a moment's thought, I sent her $200. I added a note. You don't need to bring me food anymore. Thanks for everything. After all, if she had a boyfriend, it wasn't appropriate for me to keep this up. I suddenly remembered what Chloe had said. I'm not really interested in younger men. I'm sure you're a great guy, and you should try meeting people your own age. So she chose someone her own age? Someone closer to her in age. But we were only 4 years apart. I sighed, feeling a sense of resignation. They say that when a man pursues a woman, there's only a thin veil between them. No one ever said that veil was made of reinforced steel. The next morning, I woke up to several unread messages on my phone. They were all from Chloe. She hadn't accepted the money. A text from 10 p.m. That's way too much. The food from school is really cheap. From 10:30 p.m. Why don't you want me to bring you food anymore? Are you sick of it? There are some other good places near the school if you want to try something new. From 11 p.m. Are you asleep? From midnight. What's wrong? You seem to be in a bad mood today. Did Julia do something to upset you? From 1 a.m. No, that's not it. Why are you being so formal all of a sudden? Did I do something wrong? From 1:30 a.m. Julia has said some bad things about you, but I didn't believe a word of it, so please don't worry. From 2 a.m. Ethan, good night. I read through her messages with a blank expression. Then I stormed into Julia's room and grabbed her by the hair. I gritted my teeth. You've been bad-mouthing me to Chloe? Julia was still half asleep and confused. No, I didn't. Miss Sullivan asked about you, and I just told her the truth. That you have a bad temper, you're a picky eater, you're grumpy when you wake up, you have a weird sense of humor, and you like to hit me. I was so angry I had to laugh. Just because it's the truth doesn't mean you should say it. Why didn't you mention any of my good qualities? Julia looked guilty and mumbled. I was afraid she might actually fall for you. You're so handsome. What if you actually ended up together and she became my sister-in-law? The holidays would be an absolute nightmare. I was speechless. Seeing her completely unrepentant expression just made me angrier. You? Give me back the money you didn't spend last night. Julia looked devastated. No, Ethan. You said I could keep it. You said whatever was left over was my allowance. You're my only brother. Don't take my hard-earned money. I impatiently covered my ears. We'll see what your midterm grades look like. Julia quickly asked. So are you still coming to the parent-teacher conference? I paused for a few seconds. Then I said flatly, no. As it happened, my dad was back from a business trip, so I asked him to go instead. Julia said she hadn't done well on her exams and wanted me to be the one to go. I ignored her. Chloe, on the other hand, had been texting me a lot. It was never anything important. Mostly just updates about Julia's performance in class. I was feeling irritable, so I just muted her notifications. Her last message was, are you still coming to the conference today? I replied, no. I watched the typing indicator appear and disappear for a while, but no message ever came through. I couldn't stop myself from typing. Miss Sullivan, please continue to keep an eye on Julia. If you need anything, you can just contact me on your school number. It's not really convenient to use your personal number all the time. Wasn't that what she had said to me in the first place? That her personal number wasn't convenient. Chloe never replied. I figured she was busy with the conference. When Julia got home from school, she came to find me. Hey, weirdest thing. My homeroom teacher was asking about you. I didn't look up from my laptop. Julia, bless her heart, couldn't connect the dots. Ethan, are you and Miss Sullivan good friends or something? She asked me if you were in a bad mood lately. My fingers paused on the keyboard for a second. Not really, I said casually. Julia scratched her head, sensing something was off, but not knowing what. But she didn't press the issue. That night, while my mom was cooking, she sent Julia downstairs to buy some soy sauce. When Julia came back, she looked like she'd seen a ghost. Oh my God, Ethan, you'll never guess who I just saw downstairs. Chloe, my homeroom teacher. Clatter. The chopsticks I was holding fell onto the table. My mom looked confused. Miss Sullivan lives in this neighborhood? Julia looked like she was about to have a heart attack. Who knows? I asked her what she was doing here, and she said she was just out for a walk. I was silent. For some reason, I suddenly felt a pang of guilt. I pulled out my phone and opened my iMessage with Chloe's school number. I texted her, Miss Sullivan, did you need to see Julia about something? The message went unanswered. Chloe didn't reply, but I could see her through the window, and I saw her look at her phone. She was ignoring me on purpose. I sighed in frustration, switched to her personal number, and texted impatiently, Chloe, what are you doing lurking outside my building? This time, she replied instantly. On the school number, I'm Miss Sullivan. On my personal number, I'm Chloe. You seem to have a good handle on that distinction, Ethan. My heart skipped a beat. Yep, even all these years after graduation, I was still instinctively afraid of teachers. I forced myself to sound calm. Is there something you need? Chloe replied just as quickly. Come down. We need to talk. Fine. We didn't need to clear the air. As I was heading out the door, my mom asked where I was going. Just going down to grab a package, I said. A second later, a text from Chloe popped up. Can you bring some bug spray? The mosquitoes are eating me alive. Folded hands, folded hands, folded hands. I turned around and went back inside. Under the watchful gaze of 3 pairs of eyes, I grabbed the bug spray and walked out the door. It was painfully obvious that I was bringing it to the person waiting downstairs. Chloe was standing under a streetlight, not in one of her usual conservative suits. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt and looked fresh and pretty. She looked like a college student. I thought to myself, standing under the streetlight, trying to look all innocent. Serves you right for getting eaten by mosquitoes. It was strange. Chloe wasn't wearing her glasses. In the warm yellow glow of the streetlight, her eyes looked dark and luminous. They were beautiful. I handed her the bug spray. As she sprayed it on, She asked. Have you been deliberately avoiding me and ignoring my texts lately? I wasn't about to admit that. Even if I wasn't trying to pursue her anymore, she was still Julia's teacher. There was no need to make things awkward. No, I just started a new book and I've been swamped with deadlines. I haven't had much time to look at my phone. Chloe finished spraying herself, and now she was surrounded by a cloud of bug spray. The smell was overpowering, and I instinctively took a step back. She must have thought I was about to leave. The next second, she grabbed my wrist. Wait, let me finish what I have to say before you go. I froze. I hadn't said I was leaving. She seemed so on edge. What happened to her usual calm composure? I stood still, looking at Chloe without saying a word. Then, from somewhere, she pulled out a framed photo. It was a picture of a family of 4. Her dad, her mom, her, and another man. I took a closer look. Hey, wasn't that the handsome guy who was with her at the mall? Chloe pointed to the people in the photo and said calmly, my dad, my mom, me, and my brother. I was stunned. A second too late, I realized what she was about to say. I wanted to run, but she still had a grip on my wrist. Julia must have said something to you. I was shocked. How did she guess that? Whatever she told you, it's not true. I'm single. I just said, oh. Chloe let go of my wrist and put the photo away. Okay, I've said my piece. I said again, oh. Seeing me playing dumb, Chloe suddenly laughed. What's with the oh? Aren't you going to explain why you suddenly went completely silent and ghosted me? I kept my head down, not daring to look at her, but I still felt defensive and muttered under my breath. I didn't ghost you. Can't a guy get tired and take a break from chasing someone? My response made her laugh in exasperation. She looked at me in disbelief. You were pursuing me? I retorted, wasn't I? I thought I was being pretty serious about it. Chloe's expression was complicated. Ethan, I don't get it. If your idea of pursuing someone is just bossing them around, then I don't know what to say. I thought back on the past month. Other than flirting with her over text, I hadn't really done anything for her. Meanwhile, Chloe had been acting like my personal chef, bringing me food every day. If anything, it looked more like she was the one pursuing me. I kept my head down, not daring to say another word. I felt like I was back in college, getting a lecture from my thesis advisor. Chloe suddenly let out a soft sigh. She said softly, Ethan, you're always stringing me along, and I never know what to do. Oh, so. Chloe paused, as if she were genuinely trying to figure it out. The silence stretched on, and I couldn't resist looking up at her. The streetlight cast a dim, warm glow, and her face was softly backlit, her features slightly blurred. In that quiet moment, all I could hear was her low, pleasant voice. She said, so you can stop fishing now. I'm ready to take the bait. I looked straight into her eyes and saw that she was completely serious. I suddenly remembered something she'd said before. I brought it up. But you said you had no intention of dating anyone. Chloe explained, I didn't before. But then I met you, and I realized that the idea was like a seed. Trying to bury it didn't make it go away. It just made it take root and start to grow. Wow, she sounded so formal, so poetic, such an old-fashioned girl. I thought for a moment, then said, but you also said you don't like younger guys. Chloe frowned, thinking. She spoke slowly. That's true. But the age difference isn't that big, and we're both still young. Any problems that come with age will just be challenges for us to overcome. Life is a journey, and there's no need to rush. If we take our time, everything will work out. There's no point in worrying about things we can't control. I listened with a blank expression. There was only one thought in my head. Please stop, please stop, please stop the lecture. As if she could read my mind, she actually stopped talking. She looked at me earnestly and said, I've never been in a relationship before, so I'm sure I'll have a lot of shortcomings. Knowing that, would you still be willing to be with me, to be my partner? Partner? I mulled over that word. It suddenly felt so serious and formal. So, in that solemn atmosphere, I kept a straight face and nodded seriously. I said, yes, Comrade Sullivan. From this day forward, we shall be in a pure and unadulterated romantic relationship. Chloe laughed at my joke. Okay, classmate Wood. I suddenly thought of something. By the way, Chloe, I asked, what were you thinking back when I first said I was going to pursue you? Chloe suddenly tilted her head back, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Her thoughts seemed to drift far away, and she said in a slightly robotic voice, to me, it sounded like you were saying, hey old lady, your career is about to be over, and you're going down in flames. I couldn't help but laugh. So she wasn't as unflappable as she seemed. Chloe looked at me for a moment, then suddenly asked, can I have a hug? I raised an eyebrow and asked playfully, why? She thought for a moment. They say a hug is meant to let you feel the heartbeat that's missing from the right side of your own chest. I'd like to feel that. I practically skipped all the way home. When I walked in, I was frozen in place by 3 pairs of staring eyes. I stammered, "Well, what's wrong? Why isn't anyone eating? Were you waiting for me?" "Thanks," my dad said. "I saw you downstairs talking to Miss Sullivan for over half an hour." My mom said, "I saw you hug her." Julia shrieked, "No. My worst nightmare. It actually happened. The world is ending. Somebody slapped me. Tell me this isn't real." She was so loud. Sometimes I seriously wonder if Julia was a beagle in a past life. I took a moment to compose myself, then announced calmly, "Yes. Chloe and I just had an in-depth discussion regarding our emotional compatibility, and the result is that we have decided to start dating." Julia, "Oh no." My mom couldn't take it anymore and gave her a light kick. My dad looked at me trying to suppress a grin and said to my mom, "Honey, look at Ethan. He gets a girlfriend and he's acting like a kid who just got his first car." I was at a loss for words. After dinner, Chloe texted to say she was home. I was just looking back at our first few conversations. I feel like everything I said came back to hit me like a boomerang. I couldn't help but laugh. "A boomerang, huh? That's pretty fitting." I replied, "A boomerang that comes back to hit Miss Sullivan every time." Chloe suddenly asked, "By the way, what's the name of that novel you're writing? I'd like to read it." "Me. It's called MS. Sullivan Eats Her Words Every Day." Chloe, huh? I hadn't been dating Chloe for very long when Valentine's Day rolled around. I was busy shaving and doing my hair. Julia, meanwhile, was lounging on the sofa, loudly crunching on an apple. She mumbled with her mouth full. "You know, Miss Sullivan says that holidays like Valentine's Day are just consumerist traps created by capitalism to drive spending." I didn't say anything. I was too busy staring at the latest text from Chloe, lost in thought. "Classmate Wood, I bought you some roses and that cake and bubble tea you like. I'll be at your building in 10 minutes. So, in front of her students, she rails against these manufactured holidays. But then she happily falls right into the consumerist trap herself. "Chloe, you're really one of a kind." But then again, she was the same person who earnestly advised Julia not to let me guilt trip her. And yet, she was the one who ended up eagerly bringing me food every day. Such a hypocrite, that Miss Sullivan. I shook my head with a helpless smile. It turns out that when people fall in love, they're all the same. But the more of her little flaws she revealed, the more perfect she seemed to me. Chloe texted, "I'm here, but it looks like it started raining. I parked down the street. I'll grab my umbrella and meet you at your entrance." I glanced out the window. A light rain was indeed starting to fall. I looked down and saw her walking towards my building, holding an umbrella. The curtain of rain blurred everything around her, but her figure was perfectly clear. I thought to myself, is it raining? Because in my world, it was a perfectly clear day.